Hello, this is Lauren Watson, and we're having a session today on the power of mindset. Okay. So what I'd like to start with today is to find out what it is, why it's important for you to be here. What was it about this that was important to you?
I'll go first. I know that for me, mindset is a crucial beginning foundational point for me because when my mindset is in a positive vein and when I can imagine what I've taken on and said I want to accomplish, when I embrace that fully, then things happen. When I don't have a full concept of what I'm doing, or there's some kind of resistance or some kind of missing piece of the puzzle, then the whole thing, either doesn't happen, usually doesn't happen, or even falls apart, and I can get discouraged. And so it's important to really have a positive mindset. And
Thank you.
and you're a great coach, so I'm here. I'm here to get some wisdom, either told to me like I've never heard it before, or just reminding me that I have control and that I'm hot stuff and I've got a mission here that I'm carrying on with, and I like being in your presence.
Thank you. Thank you. Brenda?
I'm swallowing a bite.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Sorry, jumped
Mm,
in mid-bite.
okay. Yeah. Well, for me, what resonated with your write-up was the being in a space of limbo, I guess. You know, it's coming up on a year almost in mid-March, where everything for me is completely changed, and uh, letting go of all of my yoga classes, having to switch from in-person classes to being virtual, and kind of overcoming my mindset about being on camera and doing my yoga in that way, and learning how to do it. And then as the year has progressed, it's certainly not the income, and not that I had much income to begin with, but now it's dwindled down to very, very little. Um, and then with my mother's passing, um, a lot of that aspect of my life is also looking differently. I don't know whether I'm going to stay here in Cincinnati. My mother was like, um, one of the main reasons for staying here. And of course, all of my friends and the Unity community plays a big role in that as well. But if the main um, reason was my mother, and so now that she's transitioned into the next world, um, I'm thinking about the possibility of moving up with David, and so that means letting go of everything that I have here. And I've made some huge strides this past week with that. But there's still a lot more to go. And I'm stepping into a world that I really don't know what it's going to look like. I've had spent some extended time up there in New York, but it was always more as a visitor, not as a resident. And so um, feeling like I'm soaring overhead, and I know my parachute's going to work, but I've never jumped before, and well, I have, but it's been a really long time, and so
Mm,
going through that at this age, yeah. that's where I'm at today.
Wonderful. A lot there to look at. So there's something that I just want you to keep in mind as we go through this. This is complimentary. I love to serve in this way. The only thing I ask is that at the end, if you have, for you to think of 2 people who would like to see more of this, people that you know. So as we go through it, people pop into our heads. So feel free to write those down and share them with me at the end. We're going to be talking about mindset and values and some solutions. And this is going to be rather organic because I want to make sure that we're dealing with what you are dealing with. So I want to honor that. So the question is, what is mindset? Where does it come from?
I think it comes oftentimes from the experiences we've had, what we've learned works, what we've learned doesn't, our values based on what we believe is important as far as how we present ourselves to the world and what we appreciate and what we stand for and what we don't stand for, and where our pain has come and ways in which we've developed ourselves, and the ways in which we still have weakness or tenderness in our being. I think all of that is, what is kind of the infrastructure of who we are and how we proceed and how we show up. And yeah, that's how I perceive that from with your just off the top.
I like that word, infrastructure. Talking about all the components
Mm-hmm.
to our mindset, because our mindset is different for different things.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just, here's my mindset for everything.
No, hopefully not. We need to be a little malleable, and I call it connective tissue. That's
True.
in reference to kind of the infrastructure, but connective tissue. There are so many aspects of how we communicate and the nuances and idiosyncrasies that we. I guess the idiosyncrasies, that kind of comes out anyway, but the ebb and flow of how we want to stay in rapport or if we want to just bulldoze through. And that usually never works, but sometimes in desperation, there's, needing to be heard or wanting to be heard, or you're just so frustrated that you've been chipping away at this particular thing for a while, and I can become frustrated with myself or the lack of satisfaction of what's happening. And I think the more I look inside to see, okay, these are the hurdles that are still in your face, Mary, then, how can you overcome them with more grace or more understanding or compassion?
Okay. Thank you. Brenda, how would you describe mindset?
Well, I've been working a lot on mindset actually since, throughout this, it's been a process. It's been a while, but really getting more focused in my mindset the past couple of months, and because I can have a tendency to kind of go with an autopilot mindset, and it's a comfortable place to be, and I just kind of float along and everything. But when I know that change needs to occur, I have to get really intentional with where want my mind to reset. And one of the aspects of that this past couple of months is just going into winter during a pandemic when I can't be around other people who always lift me up. That I have to get very intentional with keeping my mind set on being positive, and calling on that power within me to be in that space. And then in this space of letting go, it's it's been having to change my mindset from one of just being with the status quo of my life to really truly letting go of just about everything. And um and that is not a comfortable place for me to be. But as I call upon, the divine power that is within me, it makes it so much easier to go through that with more grace and with ease.
Nice. Thanks, Brenda. So we have Marie has joined us. Marie, we're just going through some things here, talking about mindset. And the question that we were just looking at is, what is mindset? Would you have anything to contribute there?
It is your way of thinking. As an educator, I know that the main types they talk about are fixed versus growth. I would venture there's more beyond that, but that I grew up with a somewhat fixed mindset, but I'm definitely an advocate of growth, and try to push myself to continue learning. And actually, it's not that I need to push. I'm innately curious, which helps that mindset of wanting to be a lifelong learner. But sometimes I have to push preconceptions about what I'm good at and what I'm not good at.
Interesting. So did you want to add any more? Just real quick, Maria, I just want to let you know that we are recording this call. But did you want to share any more about fixed versus growth?
Well, my understanding is, fixed mindset is that you're given at birth or through your genes, your upbringing, certain set of skills or dispositions to like, yay, I'm musical, or I'm not good at math or whatever. Whereas a growth mindset is we may have tendencies, but with the right work and teaching, that you can accomplish most, if not everything, that you seek.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that. I love this story to illustrate mindset. There was a girl that started first grade, and the teacher just said, okay, kids, here's the crayons and paper, and draw whatever you want. And so, they were just having a blast. And this one child was very intent, just drawing away and just very animated in her movements. And the teacher comes up and noticed that and said, well, what are you drawing? And the child said, I'm drawing a picture of God. The teacher said, well, nobody really knows what God looks like. And the child said, they will when I'm done. So the mindset is so foreign to us because of what we've learned. It's sort of the, growth versus fixed mindset right there. I guess that would be a good example of that. And, I think back on my life, when mindset was all the difference. there was a time when I was in the hospital waiting for the results of a biopsy. And at that point, the tumor was in my chest, had expanded to the size of a grapefruit. It had collapsed the lung, given me congestive heart failure, esophageal hernia. I wasn't able to sleep at 15 minutes at a time. So it was a challenging moment in my life. And there was in the middle of the night, I was always getting up, and I looked in the mirror, and I was wondering, what would be the results, and I thought about it didn't matter, because I was really thinking it in my head that I only could survive for another week or two like this. And the next thing that popped into my head is, well, let's see what we can do about this. Because I was going to have a prognosis the next day, and I'd then be able to address this experience. So it wasn't a mindset of I'm a victim, I have to wait and see what they do. And it was, give me an opportunity, because this had been going on for 3 months. And I knew that the only other option was to die, and to have a possibility, any possibility, 50%, 10%, I don't care. Just give me a possibility was my mindset. Years later, the chemotherapy had affected my heart, and I was dealing with heart failure and cardiomyopathy and mitral valve prolapse and chronic atrial fibrillation. And the first doctor I went to had a victim mentality. He was like, well, that's about it. Nothing we can do. And I didn't accept that. I fired him.
Fired. Good.
And I found another doctor who said, well, I think we can do this. I think we can do this and this. It'll improve. And when he tried everything he could, nothing worked. And he said, I'm sorry, the best I can say is that if or when it gets worse, we'll put you on the heart transplant list. And I said to him, well, now we're going to do it my way. And he was like, oh, okay.
Okay.
So I did. And you see me now. I'm not on a heart transplant list. I didn't get a heart transplant. And he had a hard time dealing with that. His mindset was he knew everything. And what was I going to do? He actually said once, who are you going to listen to? The doctor who was on the heart transplant team, the third largest heart transplant team in the country, or a potter? What did he call me? I was like, okay, he's got a mindset.
Yeah, you had a choice.
Yeah. And I had a mindset of, this isn't good enough. We can do something. And with my understanding of mind body powers, that was part of it. That was how I believe I improved so quickly with the cancer. Doctors were elated with my results. They didn't expect that at all. So mindset can have such I think, a powerful influence on how we handle the things that are in our lives. And it's not just that it's either or. It's not that it's good or bad. It's what will serve me. What will serve you as a mindset in a particular situation? So we talked about the mindset coming from our environment and the mindset that we produce ourselves. So the one is reactive, the other is proactive. And one of the challenges we have is that in our brain, back here at the base, is the amygdala. It's also our fight, flight, or freeze mechanism. But it is trained by our environment. It's trained by the reactions that we've had in the past. And so that is a survival mindset. The amygdala is all about survival. It's called the lizard brain because even a lizard has one. And that's all they've got. And that part of our brain can control us. That's why it's called fight, flight, or freeze. When it gets triggered, it controls us. We are left with the mindset that the amygdala throws at us, whatever that is. The challenge is once the amygdala is triggered, it is in control and it does not allow us to use the rest of our brain, and especially the frontal cortex, where our executive thinking and our higher emotional responses, not reactions. Higher, which means kindness, love, generosity, patience. The reactive is fear, frustration, anger, those sort of emotional responses. That comes from the amygdala, which is all based on fear. We know there's two things only, love and fear, and anger is a response of fear. So we have this challenge of triggering the frontal cortex because the amygdala has control. It is totally clear. I'm in control and you don't get to use this up here until we use the tools that free it, that set it free. So that's one of the challenges. And so those are some of the tools that I use in my coaching practice are based directly on that. How do we release the ego, the amygdala, so that ego is no longer in charge? That's one of the powers that we have. The next item, are there any questions at this point?
That sounds like what Brenda was saying earlier about getting out of autopilot and how the amygdala can be the autopilot that, you know, we default to because it's easy and it's just part of that particular part of our brain and its capacity to function, but we need a more full representation of all the capabilities we have. That's what I'm hearing. And then I was also laughing about how your next book title, because I like to play with words, your next book title could be How Your Life Will Be Full of Thriving When It Goes to Pot. Like you're a potter. I don't know. You'll love when your life goes to pot. I don't know. Made me laugh. Whatever.
Yeah, so yeah, that is autopilot. It is default. The amygdala is all of that. Yeah, so it hijacks our way of thinking, our best intentions. It hijacks. And I don't know about you, but I've had it hijack me and take me down a road and throw me into the water, and and then suddenly realizing, what was I thinking? Why did I go down that? What? I don't need to bother with that. But yeah, we want to be able to build those skills. Anything else?
I know yesterday I was reflecting on like a road that I got pulled down, and it was it seemed inviting at the time, and it seemed like it, although it was full of risk taking, it in the end it felt like this sumo wrestler in me took me by the nape of the neck and smashed me down to the ground. So I think that was the autopilot too, just limiting, it was more fear-based, or just I wasn't very grounded in the fullness of who I am. And I'm reflecting on that by thinking about the sumo wrestler.
Yeah, I think that's a really good visual for what the amygdala does.
Yeah. It's like you're not welcome here. And if you start coming around again, I know what it feels like when you start, trying to entice and trying to just derail me big time, and that ain't working. That's not going to work like it has been.
But one of the challenges that I have, and I think most of you have, is that trying to shift our mindset based on what direction we want to go. And part of that is that sometimes you don't know what the direction you want to go is.
Mm-hmm.
And what I have found in my experience is that people are challenged because they're not clear on their value system. And that's one of the first things that I do with my clients is look at what is the value system that you have. Now, to be clear, values, when given a list of values, we will pick the ones that we aspire to. Look at this. This is what I want to be. And yet, what are the values that actually help us, that drive us to our decisions, drive us to where we spend our time, who we spend it with. So values are a really key element. If you know your values, what is your mindset? If you don't know your values, what is your mindset? That makes sense? So what I like to do is a quick little values exercise. I don't know if you've ever done this one, but I'm going to share my screen. And this is it. So I'm going to just read this real quick. Bring to mind 5 things you would like to do in your life. These are kind of like bucket list items. Okay. For each activity, note 3 values that you would experience in that activity. Like if you would like to write a book, perhaps the values would be sharing a personal experience, teaching valuable content, or creativity. There is a driving force behind that, some driving forces. Like one of my clients said they wanted to go scuba diving. They found that the values were nature, beauty, and adventure in that activity. So go ahead and write down your bucket list activities and what the values are. Just kind of do it on a piece of paper. You can mind map, whatever. And I'll give you 2 minutes to work on that. We're not going to get into a full exercise on this, but just write down a few things and we'll go from there. I don't have the Jeopardy music, so we'll just leave a little silence here. Give you a few more seconds. Okay, why don't we come back and if you want to, you can share one of your your bucket list, your things you would like to do, and what values you found that went with that.
I have a few. My first is I have three, but I'll
Well,
do one at a
just do
time.
one, yeah.
Yeah.
Do one for now.
Right. Yeah. I just wanted to make room for everyone else. So I would like to go on some trips with my mom. She's 85, and that will add to our closeness and increase joy and have fun and create more memories. And then I said, get out of town. So that's just the beauty of this country and this world, and just growing my understanding of people all over the place and seeing the beauty of the land.
Mm,
It's exciting. I've been to, I think, 37 states. So, and I want to keep going. And out of the country too. I've been to some other countries, but never abroad, really abroad. So I would love to do that.
So we're gonna go on around, but go ahead and take a moment to try to pick a word to describe to those reasons that you want to do. Okay.
To really hone it in on a value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just go ahead and do that while we're going on.
Okay.
Brenda, you were ready?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, so I'll pick another one. To live in a safe, beautiful space that's easy to take care of.
So what are the values that you see in that?
Well, peace, beauty, ease, joy, freedom.
Freedom. So as we go on to Marie, I would suggest ranking those.
Mm.
To those are the most important. Marie, did you come up with some?
Yes, I've always wanted to go up in a hot air balloon. So that would fulfill my sense of adventure and authenticity, because I'd shared it a long time ago with someone close to me who poo-pooed the idea, you know, and following through on a dream. So
Yeah, excellent. Adventure. Yeah. And I get that when somebody poo-poos our ideas, it sounds almost like you were like, well, it helped you to affirm that this was something that you wanted to do. Is that right?
indeed.
Yeah, that's cool. Cool.
Yeah, I'm going to mute because my neighbor's doing some kind of construction project, so it's noisy here.
I mean, okay. Mary, did you come up with some words?
I came up with one, fulfillment. And I don't know,
Fulfillment.
that's, to me, that's, I think joy and fulfillment. And because that is, we've gone on multiple trips, my mom and me, but it's been a while. And I think there's just something that is so enriching that comes from creating memories and just a bonding. So maybe bonding could be
Mm-hmm.
one of my
Yeah.
values. And yeah, it just makes me
'Cause-
cry. I really want to do
Yeah.
that. And I've been
It's
making other priorities more important. And even my mindset has been, you know, that's expensive and, you know, I'm saving toward it, but it's a long way away kind of thing. And that doesn't help when I kind of set myself up for that kind of manifesting or lower grade manifesting. That doesn't feel good. So in this moment, I'm like, step it up, girl.
but what I'm hearing is that fulfillment is about relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's something you want to separate. The fulfillment about the beauty, or is the fulfillment about relationship?
Oh, it's about relationships because she always likes to go to the same place. I mean, we can talk about 10 places and it always boils down to Niagara Falls. I think she just loves Niagara Falls. So we go and go and go. It's
But
Or-
again, the important thing here is to really focus in on what is the value that,
yeah.
that has you excited about this.
hmm Yeah. The vastness of of the power of water and the beauty of nature, and just the stories behind people of going over the falls, and the history, and the propulsion of the power of water. And I mean, there's all that, but it's about being with my mom, and we look at each other and we stand there on the precipice of all this vastness, and two countries coming together, and people dream, and people come from all the countries to see the beauty of the US and Canada. And yeah,
The
it's just dream. They dream. I think they say, wow, this is just this magnificence is really cool. I think it's inspiring.
you're sharing in that. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, the sharing of that. It's priceless. It's like, I want that. I've got to do that.
Yeah. But again, I want to reemphasize the point is that it's a relationship for you. The
Yeah.
fulfillment is relationship.
Yes. Big time.
So why I say that's so important is we need to know what draws us in a direction so that we can tap into that for our mindset.
Yeah, I see the distinction you're making. Yeah.
So this is a really important part. It determines so much. When I work with people in job transition, I go through this process and they're like, who cares? Well, for one, their new employer is going to care. And they're going to care because if their new employer doesn't epitomize my values, then I'm not going to last there very long.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
If I find if I start a business that doesn't feed my values, doesn't express my values, I'm not going to keep doing that for very long. It's too much work. We all know that.
Mm-hmm.
Having your own business is too much work. And if the work doesn't get to feed our values, then what do we do then? And there's a couple options there, but one of them is to find the values that it does feed and focus on those. How do I make that bigger part of my experience and the bigger part of my business, bigger part of my focus? Yes, I have to do this part that doesn't feed my value, but this part does, so I'm going to focus on that. And that's how we expand, and that's how our business expands, and that's how our job expands, what we focus on. And if we don't know what it is that we want, then we can't focus on it. There was a man who worked in a company. He was in his 50s, and he didn't like the way the companies, what they were having him do. And his coach said, well, what is it you would like to do? And he says, well, there's this little part of my job that I love to do. This is the part that I love. All this other stuff, I just couldn't care less. And he said, what I think I want to do is start a consulting firm of just doing this, just this one thing. And he said, well, what if you just did that one thing at work? I said, what do you mean? He said, stop doing all the other stuff. He said, but that's my job. He says, well, you either, if you get fired, then you start the consulting firm. If you don't, then you get to do what you want without having to start your own firm. So he started ignoring everything. He ignored all the emails and all the phone calls of everything but this one thing. And everybody got on board. They didn't even realize it, but they stopped bothering him with all this other stuff and only bothered him with this. And it just took up more and more of his time. And everyone just assumed that's what his job was, because he understood his values. This feeds my values right here. This, not all this other stuff. So that's why values can change our mindset. What was his mindset? I'm not going to bother with this other stuff. Now I know what my values are. That makes sense? And if it doesn't, ask.
It does. And if I can add something too to that, is that I find that the values propel me forward into manifestation. And so if I say, you know, I want to travel, and but I have this thought that I don't have the money, I become very aware of how I'm spending my money. And so if I do something, make it, if I'm find myself making a choice of like buying a sweater that I don't really need, and I think about, I just, you know, it just is a cute sweater, and I think, does this fit in with my values? You know, my top value, my top priority is saving for my trip. And so it makes it really easy in making that decision. And it can be in anything, you know, if my values are uh, good health, and I want to eat some ice cream, and all of a sudden I find myself thinking, like, this doesn't fit in with my value of being healthy. And and so it just helps me in propelling myself forward towards my end goal, towards manifesting uh, excellent health, or that trip that I want to take, or um, the move that I want to make. Every time in my last move, as I was packing and I was beginning to pack stuff that I didn't need, I was like, "Does this fit in with my values of my next incarnation?" And it's like, no, it doesn't fit in with those values. And so I could set it aside, I can give it away, I could sell it, I can do with whatever, but it doesn't come with me. I don't carry my old values into my new set of values that I want to create for myself.
And that's a really good point. You know, we can choose what values we're going to allow. You know, are we going to be reactive or proactive? You know, we want to know where our values exist now, so that we understand what's driving us and what will drive us if we don't change them. But, you know, we can mold or leave behind certain values. You know, when there's a value of saving money that gets so out of hand that it becomes a detriment to our lives, then you know, we can examine that value and say, how do I want to move forward? What is the mindset? You know, what is the mindset that I want to have around money, as opposed to starving myself or depriving myself unnecessarily because of this idea of frugality. So yeah, we get to mold it, but if we don't know where we're at right now, and that's what this values exercise, which I'm only showing you a third of the values exercise. There's more elements to it, so that we can look at it from different angles. You know, this is one of those wonderfully positive, that we can look at the positive values that we're embracing, because of these imaginary things that have a very strong positive sense to us. Then we can look for the positive value. But there was also, and Maria, I don't know if you wanted to chime in here. Any thoughts for you? I don't know if you know, you're muted. There you are. No, you're muted again. There we go.
Yeah, there's a break in the noise. It's really like a jackhammer real close. So
Oh,
I'm trying to
wow.
be mindful of that.
Okay.
No, I don't have anything else to add at the moment. Thank you.
Okay. So, you know, what of the title of this was Amid COVID Confusion. So one of the challenges we have is that COVID is, some of the things that are happening around COVID are changing our perspective and changing our abilities to act our values. Like for you, Brenda, yoga, being in person, you got to experience the physicality and the energy of it, right? So how, and those were probably important values to you. I'm making assumptions
No, you're right on.
here. So, the question is, within the new context that we have, how do I get to express those values? And, sometimes it can be as simple as, I need technology, or it can be, I need to recognize, for me, I would think of, I need to recognize that energy is universal, and I can experience it, and they can experience mine, even though we're only on a screen. Sort of like this week I started, a friend of mine is in the hospital with COVID, and I started doing Tai Chi for wellness. And I imagine that she is like, almost like, she's on a backpack, so I'm just, so she doesn't have to do anything. I'm just doing and she gets to feel the energy, and I know, and as a spiritual person, that is real, that is working. And it feels so much better to do that, not just to do it for me, but to do it for her. And so, I can change my mindset around, I'm helpless to help her, right? But I can't, there are things that I'm doing. So anyway, that's part of what we were talking about here, mindset for success in our business, and how that can shift things. Any other thoughts around that? So for me, what I realized was that this was an opportunity. COVID, in a way, was an opportunity, because I'd already been doing Zoom calls, and doing my coaching by Zoom, and doing webinars by Zoom. And so it wasn't, I was like, oh, okay, no, this works for me, and the fact that one of my challenges supposedly is that I'm an introvert, but from here it works for me. I'm an introvert, so what, it's and the energy to me, the interaction is fine. This is great. I love it. I don't have to drive anywhere.
Mhm.
Yesterday's traffic, I didn't have to go out and find completely blocked expressways and stuff like that. So, looking at how things can reflect or shift our focus on what we're looking at, so that it can reflect our values. And then, because the word that you used earlier, Brenda, ease, things that are easy. And the more we are in our values, and the more our mindset reflects that, the more ease that we find. This morning, I was getting all freaked out about this webinar. I was starting to, and I started writing to myself, okay, your values, you've done this before. Where's your confidence? Of course I should have confidence. I'm not new at this. I know what I'm doing. I've been trained. I've been practicing. This is not. And then I was like, well, why are you doing this? I said, because it's fun. Oh, fun. Okay, why don't we focus on that?
Yeah. Part of the excitement of getting ready.
Yeah, it's part of the excitement. Yeah, it's shift the anxiety to excitement. It's exactly what I was doing. So changing my mindset in that moment. Well, that's pretty much it. A wonderful hour has already flown by. So as I said, I would love to receive a couple of referrals from you. If you know someone else who might be interested in what we've been talking about, it doesn't mean that they are all excited about it necessarily. Don't know until they get to see it and experience it. So if you have a couple of people to write down and put in the chat, or Brenda and Mary, you both have my email address. Marie, if you can put it in the chat. What I said in the beginning was this is a complimentary session, and the only thing I ask is for 2 referrals of people that you think might be interested in seeing this, learning something from it. So the other fact is that if you are interested in talking to me about my coaching practice and how it might be able to help you with your goals and your direction, I'm not sure that I'm the right coach for you. If I am not, I have plenty of fellow coaches that I could refer you to. But we would find that out in another complimentary session to assess what your goals are and what your obstacles are. And so that's a free coaching that I offer at that point. So if that's of interest to you, please do put that in the chat and I can get that information there. Maria, if you would put your email on there if you want to do that. So any questions before we sign off? How was that for you?
It was very meaningful to me. It took it down to the basics of, the core, not like it's basic, but it's the core of where to begin to evaluate what's important and how to be able to kind of marry that with what I say I want and what I most find important that I value. Really cool.
Cool.
And I think for me, I sometimes forget to think about my values. And so I just get caught up in the doing. And so just the nice reminder of the importance of values in setting intentions and things like that. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Yeah, with just an hour, it's, I have this tendency to try to pack everything into an hour. Today I said, nope, 2 things. We'll just go with that. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. And I really enjoyed it. It's good to always good to connect with both of you. And, so if you ever need anything, let me know. And you have a fantastic week.
What about your website? Is there your website address that we could review?
Yeah. Pathwayconsult.com.
Pathway Consult. Okay. Thank you. Good.
Consult.com. There's also another website that's focused on human resources. It's called www.hr-ally.com.
And are you looking for referrals for participants for another similar webinar as to this, or
Yeah,
somebody who's looking for coaching, or both, or
both. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, I do these webinars so that people can get comfortable with me,
Mhm.
get to know the way I think, and see value. You know, if they see value, that's great. If they don't, that's great. You know,
Mhm.
easy. It's not that I'm Coke or Pepsi. I'm not interested in being appealing to everyone. I'm more like Dr. Pepper, I guess. You know, that's fine. Well, but if they don't get to know me, there's no reason for them to work with me. I realize it is a very, you know, I have a system that is very important, but I also have the intuition of my own way of being that, you know, works for some people and doesn't work for others. You
Right.
know, we're on the disc. I was talking to somebody who was a very high D, and I'm a very, very, very low D dominance, and they just didn't get me. And I didn't try to talk them into it. It was just like, okay.
I get that. You know, anybody that's looking for like a yoga session that's more like Pilates and you know, a physical workout, I'm not your yoga teacher. If you're looking to go, you know, either relax or go deeper spiritually through a physical yoga practice, then we might be a good match. So I get that. Yeah. Yeah. And so for your webinar, are you offering it as an introductory for free, or will there be a fee to that? Or
No, it's free.
okay,
Yeah, I'm gonna. My plan is to do this once a month,
mm-hmm.
and so you know they can get in on the next one. I'll
Okay,
have it recorded, so if they're interested in watching this, they can.
okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, and it's a matter of developing a relationship. I don't assume I just have a product.
Yeah,
Well, if
I,
that's it, I'm
yeah.
sorry. Go ahead.
I just was going to say I'm part of a yoga teachers Facebook page, and somebody had just posted that she was looking for some coaching to go deeper. So
Oh,
um,
cool.
yeah, so I'll reach out to her.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I appreciate it. If you want to send me an introductory email, you know, CC me with her, that's fine too.
Okay.
All righty. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have
Have
a
a great
wonderful
one.
rest of your day.
All right. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.